All right.
So let me steal this while you're right there.
Okay. So it's been a while since we've covered some real estate news. We'll go through some economics real quick, and just a little thing like going on in the world called Iran.
Who?
And so we have a lot to cover. So we'll roll through this. I don't know if you follow Compass's CEO, Robert Refkin, but Refkin.
He has so few followers. You see him so little on social media that you don't even know his name.
He has fewer followers than our guest last week at Accelerate, actually, which is pretty comical.
Yeah. Sarah Maslowski from Buford, Georgia, who's an agent with a small team, has more followers than the CEO of a publicly traded company who can't find enough microphones. And anyway, it's interesting.
However, I view them as competition. You all may also view them as competition in our market space as a brokerage. And so I do follow him. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting the campaign that he has taken against Zillow over the last month. And so here's a number of his posts. Zillow no longer displays all MLS listings to buyers. We talked about this a couple months ago. And that is the policy that Zillow has taken, that if it is a...
Well, wait, let's say what Compass did. Go back. So Compass said, hey, agents, we want to juice our earnings and give you all a chance to sell just to each other, and we don't have a cap. So it makes us a whole lot more money if you all sell to each other. Are we following this? This isn't about people. This isn't about customer choice. This is about earnings.
Is that paraphrasing or word for word?
I think that's paraphrasing.
Well, it's certainly not about customer choice if brokerages fully start, siloing their listings, right?
Right.
Where you would have to go to Compass's site to get, say, a percent of the listings, and you have to go to Keller Williams' site to get a percent of the listings. The whole idea of clear cooperation in the first place was we have an MLS where all listings are shared, right? And so it's a fight against that.
Yeah, and Keller Williams a long time ago could have pulled this pin, and we could have left everything. They bought Smarter Agent. They built the ability to search all the MLSs in the country into Command. We could have done this a long time ago. Compass just finally got the tech. So they're like, where we were in 2018, somewhere like that, yep. And they're trying to exploit it for earnings.
Yep.
Okay, and the way that you make it sound great is you say it's about consumer choice. They're also tired of having Zillow disintermediate their agents. I agree. Don't we all feel that? We would love to. But our industry, the original sin was NAR and its members, in their wisdom, when computers got big and the internet got big, a couple companies like Zillow and Redfin said, hey, can we put your listings online for you on our website? And we said, sure, no one's ever going to buy a house online. Do whatever you want. Go nuts. That's like free marketing. Well, congratulations. They came to our dinner party. They brought a nice casserole, and this is a Gary Keller one. They brought a nice casserole. They've stayed at the table. They keep eating, and now they're too fat to kick out the door. And now they're a broker, so we can't even disparage them, or we're in violation of our ethics rules.
Yeah, broker in 50 states. And so the position Zillow took was simply, if you ever have a coming soon pocket listing that you're only advertising on like compass.com, thou shalt never be able to advertise it on Zillow. Right?
Which is total BS, because if we took that approach, Nomar would hit us so hard, so fast with fines and all kinds of lawsuits and all these things. But because these are the two publicly traded companies that are really big, they get left alone to fight it out.
Which is quite an entertaining fight. And so they're pointing out, which is true, there's some hypocrisy in Zillow. Once upon a time had this program that was called iBuyer program that allowed you to sell inside of Zillow's secluded marketplace and not be anywhere else.
Yeah, they would buy the home from the seller. Yep. They would fix it up maybe a little bit, and they would say, hey, you can buy our homes here that we own, and they wouldn't syndicate it to the MLS. And they never got their hands up for that.
Yeah. But frankly, they weren't that successful with it either. I mean, it's hardly a program now. Yeah. Yeah, it didn't last long.
Right. So then they got their asses.
So then the next post is, the VP General Counsel of a MLS in, I think, California, that basically says you're in violation of our board policies, right? And then the next one is Compass complaining about NAR's MLS antitrust policy. The next one you see here, this is showing San Francisco. This is like if you went to their website right now, you'd see this little box, 103 more searches that you only find on Compass's website. Now, of course, it's entertaining. I went to the New Orleans one. The number doesn't quite match what's in there, but it's an advertisement. So what did we see next? They decided to follow.
Yeah.
They decided to file a lawsuit against Zillow.
Which really, this should be an open and shut deal. The MLSs, I think, are going to have to join Compass because it's a really terrible stance to not go support one of the brokers, especially a big one. And I haven't said many nice things about Compass. So anyway.
Question?
Outside of the ethics stuff, are there any legs to the antitrust arguments?
I'm not a lawyer, Cody. Did you go to law school? I think that
No.
it's. I doubt it. I would just take all of this as a bunch of measuring of something contest that they're trying to put out in public right now. And unfortunately, this is nothing about agents. It's a foil for a consumer conversation, and it's really an eyeballs and earnings conversation. And I would urge you not to be tricked.
It's interesting who they have their aim at. Compass is a website.
Yeah, Compass is so thrilled to be.
I think it's generous that you even call them a brokerage.
Right, they're a portal. They want to be a portal. They do not care about. I don't think they have any desire to support agents there.
Well, it's really not about the listings when you look at it from that standpoint. Because like with Zillow, there's a for sale by owner on there. They get ranked lower because Zillow can't sell a for sale by owner all the leads that they sell to agents. So agents' listings that are syndicated from the MLS will rank higher to go, oh, well, we're going to sell you all of your database back to you because you're not calling it. And so Compass is like, let me do the same thing, creating our own database, getting people to register so we can build our own and not have to worry about Zillow selling it to us. And Zillow goes, well, you guys are pretty big.
Yeah.
I'm missing out on that. So this is what we're going to do.
And then if they have the consumer database and they're doing a better job communicating with than agents, what are they going to do? We're going to go back to the 50s where the broker gives you the lead and you pay 60%, 50% of your GCI to get your lead from your broker. Get where we're going? Get where all this is going? This isn't a hard thing.
And if you remember when we went over this a month or two ago, we actually looked at all the research on really how well do pocket listings do, before you go out on MLS. They don't.
Well, shoot, in 2021, it was great.
Well, in
Right?
2021,
What a
maybe
nice
it was
thing.
great, but it doesn't tend to do anything positive for your seller, right? We would still say if you need to use that as a marketing tool to get the listing, sure.
Do it.
Do it. But the research doesn't support the idea that if you don't go to MLS, you're going to make more money, you're going to sell any quicker, which is what I think some of the messaging here is that is just false. So
I doubt this case even goes to court. This is strictly PR.
So I think it's just something to be aware of. I also keep seeing this number one brokerage in the U.S. And
God, it pisses me off.
It annoys me because I think it's just, again, it's a falsehood of Compass, because by any sort of scale, we are way larger than them. And they would say, well, it's just because you're a franchise, right? We're not a franchise. Well, the reality is we sell a lot more than you do. We have 10 times more agents than you have, and our network is incredibly stronger, right? But for them to go out yelling from the rooftops for the number one brokerage in the country, I think it's just pretty gross.
Yeah.
So can they sue them for that?
Well, it's the little words at the bottom.
Yeah. Number one non-franchise brokerage that does blah, 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 that has black and white as their two main colors and has ugly signs.
Well,
that's
the sad part, though, is, there's a lot of times that I see it and it's not in the fine print. And yeah, could you sue them over it? Sure. If, all I want to do is sue people. and had the resources to do it, I think you probably could on some of these instances.
You'd have
and
to
that's what
read.
kind of makes me gross, because I know better, but I'm not sure that other agents know better. I'm not sure the consumer knows better, that your network isn't better with KW. Like, you could go put your listings inside of Command and just put it, broadcast it fully to KW agents, and there's 174,000 of them. That's a heck of a network. Do I think it's wildly successful? No, I don't. I think MLS is successful.
Yeah. Okay. I don't want to sound like we're too
Anti-Compass,
defensive
yeah. Oh, whoops.
here. Let's be anti-Times-Picayune now.
All right.
Boy, it's like but what's the clickbait website that was really big that got sued? It's like the Times-Pic is just becoming a clickbait website. BuzzFeed. This is like a BuzzFeed BS article.
I wish they would at least have quizzes in which I could find, my favorite neighborhood.
Find out what color looks good on you.
So you have, within the last 24 to 36 hours, you really have two of these, what I would consider pretty negative articles about housing in New Orleans. And my gut is like, yeah, that sounds right. Like, it's a rough market, right? So one of these says, we're down. Another one says, in the next year, we're going to be down, right? Somewhere around like 7%. This is another source here that says, 1 year change in home prices in America's 50 largest metros between May 2024 and May 2025. And it shows New Orleans. It's like the red one.
At
like
least
number
this
8
actually happened.
No, it didn't happen.
This is predictive?
No, this is between the last year, between last
Yeah.
May and this May.
And this is what happened.
This is in the past.
I get you.
It says we're
Okay.
down.
Okay.
And I don't know of a better source
Then the
of
MLS.
sales price than MLS, right? The only other source I think we could even look to is the assessor, right? And we know the assessor is whatever people want to
Got
record,
issues.
frankly, right? Like, here's my dollar transaction.
Sure.
I'm not saying like we're in this incredibly like crushing of a market, but this is truly May to May, and we're up in sales price for the New Orleans metro. If you have another way to like pull the data to make this story negative, like let's have the conversation. I just don't think this is true.
Already emailed. Already have texted with the
Well-
Times-Picayune this morning.
Yeah, so we're engaged in that conversation with them because it just doesn't follow the narrative that we can see, right? What does this mean to you? I think you have a lot of clients that are reading this. I think this is very click-worthy. I think if you're like a homeowner, you want to click on this. I think if you're thinking about buying a home, you want to click on this. And it just sadly doesn't tell the story that appreciation is still real at this point, right?
So we've got negative headlines. We know people are reading it because it's been the talk for the last 24 hours for people I talk to that are not in real estate. And one of the best things we can do is what? Educate. Is talk about it. What are you saying, Tina? Yeah, right. And they're saying could happen. It's predictive. I didn't know Ole Miss had an economics department. And anyway. Sorry,
true.
I know you love Ole Miss. Apologize. MJ, you wanted to comment there?
Can you turn up the volume?
Yeah. I guess, it depends what conversation you're having, right?
It depends on the conversation you're having. And anything like this, you just have to see how it can help. And when you're talking to buyers, you do what Tina did and just, say that and show them what cookie shows.
Yeah. I would rather be the economist of choice that my clients go to. And I can't think of a better thing to go put out on social or to email your database or to just have a conversation about. And really to just have a really crisp line or two at a party, at a bar, wherever, swimming pool, wherever you are for July 4th. I think that's the big thing. Just don't be caught off guard by it.
Also, people like not liking the media. I mean, it's not a leap to be like, NOLA.com got this wrong, y'all.
Yeah, NOLA.com gets a lot wrong.
Yep.
Okay.
Be negative about them.
All right. So,
Can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
All right, so we get the word out by individual agents. The word is, this is what's different. Do we do press releases from here?
we do.
Of course we do.
I know, but I never knew.
Yeah.
And are they frequent or?
Yeah.
Okay, so every
We pick lots of fights, Mary.
Oh, good. I love.
I'm not just combative with you all. I do it.
I love
for
a
the
fight.
others.
Okay, cool. It's a natural trait for me.
No, look. So there's ways to do this, and we know there's ways to do this and ways not to. So my first thing. God, my phone's lights on like I'm an old person. Okay.
Probably the lack of case.
My email this morning to a person in the business section who works for Stephanie Regal, who's the lead business reporter. I just wrote him. I said, think the TP is interested in writing an article about New Orleans real estate that isn't super negative? And look, he gives us good coverage. And he said, I know Stephanie's considering a couple of stories right now, one using latest data. I sent him 3 charts very quickly, straight out of the MLS. And here's the problem, y'all. Yes, we stole from the future in 2020, 2021, first 3 quarters of 2022. We did a ton more transactions then. And now people don't need to move. They don't have as many situations where they want to upgrade. How much desire was in that market? There was a ton of it, right? Desire's gone. The only people selling right now are the ones that have another D. They want to downsize. They're getting a divorce. They're deploying or relocating. They're one of those other Ds or dying. My clients seem to be dying.
That's the D we don't talk about enough.
Yeah, I know.
Dead people.
It's a good one. And what we're feeling, the reason why we can read an article like that and feel like maybe that's true and we forget all the facts is because of this.
Yeah, so I think
And this is a national.
Yeah, I think this is probably the most compelling thing that you can rationalize to feel the way that you feel. And it's just because demand on the buyer side has been stagnant, right? And our inventories have been growing. I don't have like an inventory like history, but I think because we've shown it enough. But if you go back in the course of time for normal inventory in New Orleans, sadly, we just got back to normal. Yeah. But we haven't been there in like 6 years. And so you've now spent so many months building inventory and not selling it. And so you're like not making that kind of money as you build the inventory back up.
So what did ALC decide to do about that on Friday? How can we help that? How can we actually fix this problem and not just complain?
Yeah, so really a couple things. One, we prospect on Tuesday mornings all together in order to get more business. But 2, in order to support sellers who have it in their head that this is like the price and I'm not budging, or I can't have the conversation, or I don't trust Guyon for whatever reason, and Guyon's like, I'm exhausted and I almost don't even know how to redeliver the message for the 5th time to the same person, right? So we're like, well, what if we actually went and looked at these properties for other agents and gave feedback? And then like, no kidding, I could take that feedback that's not just Guyon's personal opinion about the property, but it's also, Philip's opinion, Lori's opinion.
Evil third party, right?
Evil
and
third
we're going
party.
to talk about this a little bit more. And I think the third thing at ALC that we went through is that when we are here on those Tuesday mornings, we should be sharing our needs and leads. I'm not worried about telling Guyon about a listing I'm about to sign or about to put on the market, or, because if he's telling me a buyer that could fit that, what powerful thing that would be to get that signed for me, or if I can just say, hey, sign this single client listing right now because I got to get buyer. This buyer is looking right now, and I think your house is perfect. Let me get you in, and then once they sign a single client listing, you need one more piece of paper to make it a permanent one, or a typical listing, right? So all those things make your life a lot easier, and we've got 15 people here. Why don't we just use our scale and talk? I think that's a good idea. And we all enjoy each other. So I think it was a very productive ALC on Friday.
Was. All right, this is your favorite. So where are interest rates going? I mean, we could have put this at the very end, but...
Okay. If the Fed chair gets fired or for some reason, right, whatever the conversation that politically we hear on whatever channel or whatever, the market goes down a tremendous amount, in my opinion. So even if it could happen...
The stock market is what you're talking
right,
about.
the stock market, the bond market would go way up, the stock market would go out, like all kinds of things. We put a ton of risk in the system. So that's why, and probably it's illegal, but that's why this isn't happening. That's why Jerome Powell still has the job and will finish out his term. He's a steady hand that's mostly that's got a lot of trust by the markets. Okay, so let's take all that nonsense off the table because I feel like that's what takes up the air in the majority of rate conversations I have with non-real estate people. So they make it a political thing. It's not a political thing. This is monetary policy. Now, the Fed keeps getting data that just isn't like juicy enough to come out of restrictive territory that we're in today. The job market, still looking strong. Inflation, still above 2. Not fully 2.5, but still above the target rate.
Yeah, we have all.
Stock market at all-time highs. So when you look at these things and you're saying, well, we're at a level that's meant to cool the economy down a bit, which is where they are. They're in restrictive territory. Why would we lower it to help the realtors and real estate investors? We're the only people really out there hurting right now. Everybody else is doing great. Any disagreements, John? Yeah, it's really us. And Antonio was here last week. He said the same thing. He always reminds us we feel it first when we recover, and we feel it first when we go down. So we would love there to be a rate cut. Probably not going to be any rate cut until October, is what Antonio was saying. And when we go to the tool I love to use that looks at Fed rate cut probabilities, this is saying right now where the Fed target rate is between 4.25 and 4.5%. This is saying that there is a 96% or a 4% chance that there's a rate cut at or before the October meeting.
Yeah, so this is, you've selected the October up here, and so this is the meeting we're talking about. This is when we would expect a cut.
Yeah, so we've got 2 other opportunities before that, the July 30th meeting and the September 17th meeting. But I would say, tell clients, by October, 94% chance we've got a rate cut, is what the market's telling us today.
What I love is we have access to these slides.
You do. You have it.
Jeffrey's done the homework. Like, we have access to it.
Yeah.
The other thing is that, I mean, we saw, and I'm not taking John's thunder, but we saw a pretty nice move yesterday.
Yeah.
Yep.
Look, the moves on a day-to-day basis are nauseating right now.
Well,
the bond market's supposed to be really really chill and deliberate, and we have not had. We are moving like NVIDIA stock.
It is funny, because we created some of these slides yesterday morning, and by the end of the day, I'm like, do I need to go recreate them? I mean, it is,
Quote yesterday on a property, investment property for a client, 6.875.
yeah, that's great.
That's a lot better, right? The residential market will. I'm not going to say in fuego, but it'll be very strong in the low 6s. That's not going to be a problem. So, go back to the rate side one more time. I think it's incredibly interesting that there's a 60% chance right now that we're a 0.5 point to 0.75 point lower than we are today on the Fed funds rate. That'd be a big deal. That'd be a really big deal. For those of us who have mortgages, that are commercial investors that have mortgages tied to the prime rate, we'd see a nice decrease in our monthly mortgage.
Yep.
Okay.
Can't wait. I've been waiting. I've been waiting for years.
Lots of people. A lot of excitement in there.
Yep.
All right.
I'll save tons of
Just
money.
moving through some of that data, and Antonio talked about this. The country is growing. Or what is that one showing?
Actually, we were down just a bit, and I mean, when you actually add the two together, the percent down is actually, I don't want to say significant, but we had some concern in the first quarter on like what growth looks like, and I think that's
It's
with
Q1.
Yeah, and so I think that's with.
Yeah, I'm
frankly,
not. I don't think that holds. I think.
Well, yeah, I think it's certainly going to shift. I mean, but
Antonio had a graph that was a little bit different last week. That's why I was comfortable saying we grew, but certainly flat. Easy on the TikTok, dear.
So, yeah, I think this is great news here. We're a hair from record high.
That's called record highs. We're at all-time highs. I mean, when you're right at the line, you're at all-time highs. You don't have to. You don't have to wait to be at the exact decimal point.
All right, sure. All right.
We should feel good.
We
Goes back to the story and the thesis we got to tell our clients.
Yep.
Ring the register, buy something stable.
There's a good junior investor story, younger kids that have just said, we are not going to watch any of the news whatsoever. There's a term for it. There's a lot of memes. But it's this idea that like I'm just going to pick the companies and we're going to see these ups and downs and we're going to ride it out and we're always going to win. Like it doesn't really matter as much. And when you think about all that's going on in the world right now and the fact that we can be here, I think proves a little bit of that point. Mm-hmm. Inflation,
a little under 2.5.
The 2.5, it's great, right? We're getting it back to where we need.
No, we want it to 2.
Well,
we want to be out of restrictive rate territory. The Fed wants it at 2.
And we're at 2. Okay.
I agree. We don't have like a problem.
We don't have the problem.
We don't have a problem in the country that's fundamental. We just want to get this number down so the Fed says, yes, I'll finally lower.
Yep.
That's what we want to see. That's why I'm splitting hairs.
Love it. U.S. trade balance, right, which I think, of course, has been fascinating. And it seems like our trade wars were 2 years, 3 years ago, and they were just like a month ago, is what we've seen. And so we saw this huge dip in the balance of trade. So the balance of trade is exports versus imports. And so that dips down, and we're back to normal. And then that little gray line is the forecast for the next 2 quarters.
Let's stay off this one. Go.
All right.
Let me tell you about Iran and the military response. I think we've got a more expert person here.
Okay. All right. Just buckle up for a second. This is just because this has been a conversation that like we've had around the brokerage, just in bits and pieces, people wanting to talk about it. So this is the escalation. You don't need to memorize all this. Just for some context.
Thank God.
Who's going to be on the exam?
This is like really like post once we left the nuclear deal with Iran. Really from here to here is whenever I was deployed over to Bahrain, right, which was a great time. I had tons of focus on Iran and a lot of like Houthi movements, and so I think I can speak with some authority on like Iran and their calculus of everything that's gone on. But essentially, there's just been a lot of back and forth, anywhere from cyber attacks to them shooting on our aircraft to us killing their most important person of their special forces, them launching missiles on a base in Iraq that created head trauma for some of our soldiers. And so it's been escalating not just for the last couple months, but really if you want to go back until early 2019. And this has increasingly made Israel more nervous, right? If you think about the banners inside of a protest inside of Iran, it is death to America, death to Israel, right? Does everybody feel that way in Iran? No. Do a lot of people in Iran feel that way? Yes. Have they built a lot of their government and their military against that? 100%, right? And so a build up to that. So this is just some fun, like.
Is that part of the uniform?
So yeah, so in the Pacific, underneath our mess dress, when we go to formals, we have what's called a party shirt, and so you can't see it when you're all dressed up. But when you've had enough to drink, everyone takes it off, and you got to have like fun sleeves or whatever, right? And so this one is the one I had like made and embroidered because that's like very cheap over in Asia. And it says, United States Navy when diplomacy fails, which is really funny whenever the most senior political person in the country comes up to you and is like, I hate your shirt. You know, like, and then by the end of the night, she's taking a photo with me in the shirt because she loves it. But this is kind of what has happened over the last 2 weeks, in my judgment, right? So I think there's still like some figuring out of like, did Israel really pull us into this? Did they really pull us into it, or did we know about it? And you know, I don't know any like classified information. This is just like conjecture. Let's say we didn't know about it. Well, what we do know, and what I do believe, is like the administration spent a ton of time trying to get through this in a diplomatic move. But we know what Homeboy, their supreme leader,
Homeboy.
So, I mean, he truly went in hiding where there was no ability to communicate with them. And so there's reports that Trump tried to send Vance over there. He tried to send Rubio over there. Up to before the strikes, he was willing to go over to Qatar himself to negotiate. But we couldn't get a hold of him, right? Like, that is how detached and how removed and how terrified he is. When you think about what happened in the first strikes in Israel, I mean, they were taking out generals, right? I mean, they had basically taken out all their air defense systems, and they had a lot of control over like what happened in that country at that point. And so I don't think there was any calculus, even without the United States getting involved, that there wasn't potential assassination or at least removal of him. And certainly our administration has discussed potential
regime change.
Right. And so that leads up to our Operation Midnight Hammer. You know, my only commentary on this is like, of course we have these plans on the books, like ready to execute. Like, this isn't like the first time we ever thought about taking out Iran's like nuclear facilities. I'm impressed, but also seemingly the administration's impressed. In such a quick period of time, could we execute such a mission? Like, I mean, I love the military, but I'm like, I don't want to say skeptical, but like hella impressed that we'd be able to like maneuver forces to where they needed to be. You're talking about maneuver carriers, you're talking about maneuvering destroyers, you're talking about changing radars, force posture across those 40,000 troops, which maybe didn't happen, which would be really strange, in order for this to take place. So was this?
And then on top of that, you were telling me that it's the other things you have to do, like
right.
When you go bomb someone, then you have to go to a more aggressive posture for defense at bases across the world.
Yeah,
you got to surge thousands of people to do that.
Yeah, I mean it's a huge movement, and again, it wasn't leaked.
Wasn't there like a distraction in the Pacific too?
Well, that was
Yeah,
the last.
I'll get to that here in a second because I think that's also like fascinating. What after this, and so incredible mission, done with precision. You could see it in everybody's face from whenever Trump talked about it on Saturday night to whenever the next morning, Sunday morning, you had the SecDef and chairman of Joint Staff. I mean, you could tell on their face, they're like, holy shit, we pulled this thing off. Like, we're badasses, right? I just question, like, was this truly a few days planning or a longer planning period? I mean, just something to have in your head. So your left is all the strikes in Iran over the last couple weeks. And so that's a lot of Israeli strikes and U.S. strikes. And then this is what actually happened on the right on Saturday, right? And so all that to say, a significant degradation of Iranian battle of order, right?
I think it's worth noting, Strait of Hormuz, right there. For people that don't kind of follow that one.
So what does
It's
that,
talked about.
What does that matter? 20% of oil flows through there. And so what did we see with oil last week? We saw it jump up 20%. Then it dropped down 10%.
So tankers have to get loaded. A ton of oil production gets loaded on this coast.
Yep.
And these huge tanker ships have to go through this little place where you can literally stand there and just fire RPGs at ships going by because it's so small.
But what Iran has done, not only like could they do, have they done, is put mines inside of the strait, right? In order to close that off and really cause some economic troubles. And so, Sunday leading into Monday, we're like, what is retaliation going to look like? And I mean, I was over there whenever we thought about striking Iran because they shot down a $135 million aircraft of ours. And frankly, we weren't ready for the response, and so we didn't respond in the way we would have, right? One of Iran's capabilities is drone attacks, right? While I was over there, so Aramco, which is Saudi Arabia's like largest, it's their big oil producer. It's publicly traded now. They, with precision, came and struck pipes with drones all the way from Iran, all the way down in Saudi Arabia, unseen. How is it unseen? It's because you turned off all the transponders, you're using pure GPS, and they blew this stuff up, right? And I'm like thinking about the oil markets, I'm thinking about like all the implications of that, and it's like Saudi Arabia and us and everyone, we just we're going to ignore it. Like, let's not talk about it because it's kind of that big of a deal. Like, if we talked about it, it would make the situation worse. And so we just said, this plant's offline, and they rushed to, like, recover that. All that to say is, like, when I'm over on the base in Bahrain, I'm concerned about drone attacks, right? It's one thing for a missile attack, and like that's what like we have destroyers for, and they're pretty capable at shooting down missiles. But drones, have been the thing that we're nervous about in the last, I would even say decade. I would say the last 5 years, right? We've been using drones, of course, for decades, but like small commercial off-the-shelf drones that we're seeing employed
Russians
dramatically.
don't like them either.
Yeah. Russia lost a couple $1 billion of airplanes in the last couple weeks over that. But
a lot of people.
When you think about air defense systems, it's one thing to look for a missile, which you're looking high, and you can only look so wide. It's not like a 360, and it's not a ground to overhead, and there are different signatures that you're looking for, right? And so to look for a drone, yeah, you can look for it, but you got to know where you're looking, in a sense. And so do you want to look for the drone, or do you want to look for the missile, or do you have enough capability to look for both? And I think we've woken up to reality of like, we got to prepare our forces to look for both. Which has been tough. Israel's learned that the hard way.
It's a technology problem, though, too. Yeah. It's not just we don't have it. It's like it doesn't
technology
exist
problem. It's also like a response problem. It's like, we're going to spend $1 million to shoot down, $1,000 drone, right?
Yep.
And how many $1,000 drones equal how many millions of dollars? I mean, it becomes a math problem and a supply problem. So when we were talking about the response, and then by the way, they do have like these sleeper cells in different places, and so I had a lot of angst on like what this response could be, right? I mean, Iran in the past has shown to be a formidable enemy. Like when I joined the Navy 16 years ago, I'm telling you, like Iran, like and Israel going to war would have been like the biggest thing in the world. Now we care about China and Russia. Like our mind is like in so many other places. So, if you're tracking, Iran let Qatar know this is about to happen. They closed their airspace in advance. All the civilian aircraft were able to get out. They let the United States know. We were able to let everyone at the embassy know to go shelter in place. What was it, like 14 missiles came over. We got 13 of them, which is pretty much like standard for like a volley like that. No casualties. And I'm just like, that's insane. Like that's insanely like weak. And then That, yeah. They told Qatar and us, yes. Yeah.
Which is very gentlemanly to do, to tell your.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Right.
You've got, if you go back to the gentleman you called Homeboy, he's got to save face to his 92 million constituents, which really aren't constituents, okay, they're subjects. But that's a lot of people to feel like we need revenge. So he had to do something, but he also didn't want to make things worse, because what you kind of, I think you kind of skipped was, if you go back to your airstrike map, look what was bombed by Israel from June 2nd to June 24th, and then look what happened, like, just in basically a day. I mean, we launched the bombs we launched, and Israel went to town at the same simultaneously, right?
Yep. So, in my assessment, like, Trump coming out and announcing a ceasefire was just complete a posture that nobody agreed on, right? Which you can think whatever political side you are. In some ways, I was like, this is genius if this works. Like, and then we go for like 8 hours and nobody's confirmed by either government there's a ceasefire, right? And you're like, there's no way they agree to this ceasefire before this. And then they did. I mean, there was strikes. Israel went and blew stuff up. Iran still shot some missiles right afterwards. But then
that's not atypical for a ceasefire agreement, though, in war.
Right. Well, and that's why, like Trump said, like, you have 12 hours, and this is how we're going to go down. So the next one is like, well, how do ceasefires usually go in the Middle East?
He only has 10 more slides, by the way.
Yeah, we're almost done. And this would show, of the 387 ceasefires, there's a few that we don't know what happened. 360, we know how that happened. Anyway, about half the time they fell, right? And so it's just something to keep an eye out for, right? Like, where is this going to go? This is your probability slide. I think there's also potential posturing, like, if we said the bombers that were sent to the Pacific instead of the Atlantic, that was we call it feint, like, it was our fake, Is it possible what they did in their immediate response was just that to us, right? Where they just pretended like this was enough for us, and it gives them time to posture their forces for a more significant event. I think that's a real possibility. The other side, if you just want to feel better about it, well, maybe they also just understand, based off all the strikes in the last month, I mean, that maybe they're not as capable as they would like to be, and they do need to, like, basically shape the messaging for their people versus what has actually happened, which with the state-controlled media, we've already seen some of that take place, right? They didn't say, we let the Americans in Qatar know. They just said, we did these strikes and they were really effective, and whatever the case is. I mean, it's just something to watch. What does this all mean? Like, to take it for a landing, what does this all mean? There's just still a lot of instability, and there's a lot to watch. It's a new normal. I've never seen us in a place where our minds are, like, in so many different places. I mean, you have to, like, appreciate probably 70% of, like, military mind right now is on China, and the last month it has been back on the Levant. Completely shifted. And oh, by the way, for the last couple of years, we probably spent over 50% in European command because of Ukraine and Russia. Like a very divided force. So, Jeffrey, what does that do for interest rates?
Now, I think this is why things hold. Our partner in the property asked me, he said, do you think interest rates are going to go down by October? And I said, that's what they say. And he's like, but do you? And I said, no, there's just too much happening to, like, of uncertainty. So really, I'm not trying to get all, like, amped up in any particular outcome. What I'm trying to get amped up in is, what can I do to continue to feed my family? And that's the simple thing. Like, you can decide to be all screwed up in, I mean, Cody, thank you, great briefing. if you looked at all of his sources, which I was looking at, there's not one like MSNBC or Fox News or any like, these are Institute of War and Naval Resources and different, very, as close to the sources you can get without being an intelligence, nonpartisan like points of view and data. If you just start bringing that in, we could be all at each other's throats, and then we could go and say Supreme Court changes and all these things, blah, 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 and you could just go want to like end it all. Or you focus on the fact that people have to move, have to lease, have to buy, have to sell, and they're out there. There's a bunch of transactions.
Yeah. This only means as much as you want it to be, I guess is like the way I would phrase it.
Just go focus on what's in front of you.
Unless you're
and
in
what
the
you can
military
control.
reserves, and then you have a different concern.
You agree?
I could just simply add to that. I think that we all need to do a lot better job
Can we get a mic?
getting out the true motivation of people that you choose to work with.
I like that.
And I think if you don't take the people that are above a 6 on the scale out of 10, then you're wasting your time and your energy, and you probably ought to you're just going to get bogged down in people that are going nowhere and doing nothing.
Yeah. Look,